For one thing, I really respect that it was bold enough to actually use angels as a theme. It sidestepped the religious implications of that by making them... Yeah! I don't know why I screamed. That wasn't that frustrating. Hello there, heroes. I'm the Orange Ranger, and welcome to another Power Rangers Ninja Steel hiatus video. So, we're out of both the month of colors and summer in the topics, so now I guess we're really hitting this hiatus in earnest. And we are just about at the halfway point, so I guess that does make sense. With summer and the topics being over, that means it's time for another one of those fan favorites, a top 10 list. Seriously, looking over my analytics, top 10 videos always get more views. I may love my discussion videos, I have no plans on stopping them, but it seems like in the world of YouTube, things just need to be sorted into convenient groups of 10 or so. This video also marks something of an auspicious occasion for this channel. In the past, I've for the most part avoided directly discussing Super Sentai and Kamen Rider because I wanted this channel to focus specifically on Power Rangers, Orange Ranger videos. However, when Power Rangers goes away for multiple months at a time, this argument can lose a little bit of weight. So, it is finally time for Orange Ranger to do a video about the older brother of Power Rangers, Super Sentai. It's time for the Orange Ranger's top 10 Sentai that I have seen. Yes, that I have seen. So there is nothing on this list before Boukenger. I have no exposure to anything before Boukenger except the little bits and pieces that GOSEIGER provided. Don't get me wrong, I know that there's good stuff there. There are things that I like that I have picked up from GOSEIGER, watching YouTube clips and etc. I just haven't seen enough of those seasons to be able to get a feel for them. Heck, thinking about it, I don't even think I actually finished Boukenger, but I definitely watched enough of it to get a solid feel for it. So, if it makes you feel any better, I guess you can call this the top 10 modern Sentai or whatever. I can only rank what I have seen. And of course, being an Orange Ranger top 10 video, I have some disclaimers. The first is KYORYUGER. I'm sure it is a fantastic series right now. I'm hearing plenty of people whose opinions I respect say so. Thing is, I haven't started watching it yet. I am still working on ZYUDEN. Now, don't worry, I am within single digits of the end of ZYUDEN. I will be starting KYORYUGER soon. Just haven't got there yet, so I don't have a feel for it. The other is Hikonin Sentai Gekiranger, an unofficial Sentai parody series that was actually produced by Toei. It was really good, playing off a lot of the tropes of Sentai in a comedic way, and even features an episode that's entirely dedicated to the Power Rangers franchise. However, as weird as this might sound, counting it on a list alongside the official Super Sentai kind of feels wrong in a way. Part of the story of Gekiranger was the team coming to accept who and what they were. They may not have been official senshi, but they had their own, yes, mostly imaginary, battle over 2 seasons, and they were great in their own right. They truly matter in the world of Super Sentai. If you haven't watched Gekiranger, go do so. It is my #1 unofficial Super Sentai. Okay, and this last one isn't exactly a disclaimer, but 11 Sentai were eligible for ranking, so we can thankfully give an incredibly, thankfully short amount of time to the 11th Sentai on the list, Shuriken Sentai Ninja. If you've been watching my channel for any length of time, you've probably heard me knock Ninja at least once for multiple, well-deserved reasons. The characters are flat. The villains are boring. The mecha have no connection to anything. The comedy in this comedy Sentai is stupid. And overall, this show was just painful to watch. It is easily the worst Sentai that I have ever seen, and it's not even in the same solar system as the rest of this list. Okay, now that I have that out of my system, we can get on with the list. Number 10, Tenso Sentai GOSEIGER. It's kind of funny that GOSEIGER ends up at the bottom of the list, since next time I'm doing a video defending Megaforce, GOSEIGER's Power Rangers adaptation. GOSEIGER was a pretty good Sentai. One thing I really respect about it is that it was bold enough to use angels as a season theme. They sidestepped the religious implications of this by making them guardian angels instead of actual heavenly angels. This is something that was lampshaded in the GOSEIGER Shinkenger versus movie. GOSEIGER has a really cool main mecha that's very sleek and connects very well, and they have an incredibly unique henshin device or morpher, a big tiki head card reader thing. You really can't turn this thing off. Huh. The Gosei Morpher from Power Rangers Megaforce, you can't turn it off. It has 3 settings. I don't think I actually reviewed this thing. It has 3 settings: trading card game, on, and try me. Each one of those 3 is going to make noise. I also found it very creative that the primary aspects of their mecha, or Zords, were the heads of the Zords, called headers, which also allowed them to be miniaturized and used on their weapons. It's not on. Where GOSEIGER falls short for me is the villains and how they tie into the show's overall plot. You see, GOSEIGER made what is truly a very bold choice in making the show very arc-heavy. For those of you who have only seen Megaforce and you do know about each of the different villain groups in that first season, in GOSEIGER, each of those villain groups was its own specific arc of the show, with Vrock, here known as either Bure Duran or then Brajira, going from group to continue the overall plot. The problem with this is it makes GOSEIGER feel less like one coherent story and more like 3 shorter seasons with a little mini-series at the end that wraps everything up. The arcs are so incredibly distinct that there's no flow to the overall story. It's basically just, here's villain group number 1. Hooray! We defeated villain group number 1. Oh wait, here's villain group number 2. It just makes GOSEIGER feel incredibly dry and boring, less like one distinct season, and more like 3 short seasons where the villain is defeated without causing very much trouble. Oh, and yes, as I've mentioned before, the short coat styling on the suits. Pull the color down past the belt, you fuck! Number 9, Doubutsu Sentai Go-Busters. Doubutsu Sentai GYUKEN. We very quickly reached the most recently completed season of Super Sentai, as well as the one that I've most recently been watching. Though it's been derided as Power Rangers Minecraft, I actually really like the cube theming, especially in the 40th anniversary season. The show is written very well and has a nice plot that throws in some interesting curveballs now and then. There are 2 major issues that weigh GYUKEN down for me. One is the suits. While I like the look of their mecha, though it is disappointing that the toys literally cannot form the way the mecha do, since they're cubes so the legs don't separate, the suits just do not do it for me. I actually really like the helmets. Those are nice. But those giant animal face logos on the chest look like t-shirts that you could buy at Animal Kingdom, and otherwise the suits are very plain and just focused on the main color. The other major problem is that GYUKEN is the 40th anniversary of Super Sentai, and barely even acknowledges that fact. In fact, Toei really lucked out with this season in that the 40th anniversary season also just so happened to contain the 2000th episode of Super Sentai. That was handled pretty well. They did a two-part episode for the 1999 and 2000th episode that featured a team-up with GOSEIGER, where we saw them update their Ranger keys with the newer teams. However, while I will readily admit that I have not finished ZYUDEN yet, the only acknowledgement so far that I have seen of the 40th anniversary itself is a series of little side movies called Super Doubutsu Taisen, and I can say the first one of those is terrible because the Juman Rangers are absolute jerks about the history of Super Sentai, not caring whatsoever until they realize it's something Yamato really cares about, and overall just come off as really unlikable. Number 8, Doubutsu Sentai Go Busters. TOKUMEI Sentai Go Busters. TOKUMEI Sentai Go Busters. You know, I'm actually surprised to see it rank this low on the list because it really is a series that I enjoyed for the most part. This was the Sentai series that we were all surprised to not see become Power Rangers, the first Sentai series to be entirely skipped over in that regard. Besides the fact that it actually included references to the Power Rangers franchise, such as their henshin devices saying it's morphin time, and calling all of their mecha, both the good guys and the bad guys, Megazords, it was also themed around spies and secret agents. That seems like a no-brainer for Power Rangers. Once again, there are two aspects that I think caused Go Busters to drop on my list. The first is that whole secret agent thing that seemed really cool didn't really seem to play into the plot very much. There are two aspects of that I remember being part of the story. One is that their weapons were all kind of gadget-themed, like a secret agent having all kinds of gadgets like James Bond. The other is that the organization had a network of tunnels around the city that would lead to large poster doors that allowed the Go Busters to get around the city secretly and quickly. Otherwise, I just don't remember the secret agent thing being much of a big deal, not as much as I wanted it to be. The other is the left turn the plot takes. Now, normally when I say a story takes a left turn, it's at the corner of wacky and bananas. But that's not actually the case here. This is really one of the first instances where we see Toei get very, very concerned with mid-season ratings. Go Busters was not doing well at all. Record low ratings, to be honest. And there's a very sudden shift due to that. In something of an extreme rarity, the show got a brand new theme song. And while I do like the second, I have to say that I preferred the first. At about the same time, the villain plot also suddenly completely changes out of nowhere. But overall, Go Busters had likable Rangers and excellent villains. Enter and Escape are some of the best villains that Sentai has ever provided. To this day, I still really consider it a shame that Go Busters never got a Power Rangers adaptation. Well, besides Grid Defense, of course. Number 7. Go-Go Sentai Boukenger. Boukenger holds something of a special place in my heart for being my very first exposure to Super Sentai. I don't consider it my official first Sentai because I didn't actually finish it, but I saw more than enough of it to know that it's good stuff. And that's actually a thing about this list. I've only seen 11 Sentai, 12 if you count a Gekiranger, and pretty much all of them were really good. The only one that I consider bad, Ninja, isn't on the list. It's number 11. I think that line that I always mention in my top 10 list falls really high up on the list this time, between number 9, ZYUDEN, and number 8, Go Busters. This is kind of a funny thing to say when so many people will deride a Power Ranger season that basically copies the plot of the Sentai, but Boukenger was basically everything Operation Overdrive should have been. A team of treasure hunters traveling the world looking for ancient artifacts that could prove dangerous. Chief, aka Boken Red, walked right on that line between confidence and arrogance, and that makes him one of the more beloved Reds. Boukenger used a similar faction system to Operation Overdrive for its villains, obviously, and I don't know. I mean, I can see the appeal, the possibilities of a villain faction system adding extra conflict to the plot, But to me, it just draws focus away and means that your show doesn't have one singular excellent villain. The one they end up fighting at the end is just the one that won out from all the others, and we don't know them as well as a villain that we have spent an entire season with. Boukenger was done a disservice by Operation Overdrive because it's actually a pretty good season. It gets a little dry here and there, but overall, if you've avoided Boukenger because you thought Overdrive was garbage, you might want to give it a try. Number 6, Ten Sentai KYORYUGER. Ah, the power of the dinosaur samba. KYORYUGER was the classic case where Power Rangers took a Sentai that was kind of lighthearted and made it a little bit more serious. KYORYUGER was themed around dinosaurs, music, and batteries, which lends credence to my theory that Toei will often pick the themes of a season of Toku by drawing random words out of a hat, usually in groups of 2 or 3. Fruit, locks, ancient warriors. Daigo, aka King, aka Kyoryu Red, was one of those firebrand reds. But there was something charming about his character that made him far less annoying than that character type usually is. One thing I really liked that KyoRyuger did that Dino Charge didn't really adapt was the idea that just because these people were chosen to be Rangers didn't mean they necessarily had to be friends. In the first few episodes, everybody but Daigo actually insists on meeting in suit, saying that they don't want to know each other, they just have a job to do. They do eventually drop that, of course, so we can have things like dual character episodes and more character development, but it's something that I thought was interesting while they did it. The villains are very similar to Dino Charge, except that there's no Sledge, he was an original villain. Instead, Lord Arcanon, here known as Chaos, was the primary villain. They were okay, not spectacular. Except that Poisandra, here known as Candelira, had a human form that was wowie zowie. But actually, speaking seriously about her, there's an interesting little tag note to her character. KyoRyuger had a special movie after its run called 100 Years Later that established that she and Lekiro, I've never really been able to pronounce that, followed on from their heel turn at the end of the series and actually replaced Xenowang, here called Torin, as the mentor. Number 5, Engine Sentai GO-ONGER. Some of you are going to be surprised to see GO-ONGER this high on the list. I destroy Ninja on a regular basis for having really bad, stupid, goofy comedy, so what's different about GO-ONGER? GO-ONGER had a charm that Ninja just lacked. There's an earnestness about the show that I admire. The characters are actually likable, unlike Ninja, and I loved the fact that the mecha were not just sentient, but able to communicate and be their own characters with their own stories. You just don't see many TV shows with vehicular character development. Besides maybe Knight Rider? There's something of a smaller aspect to GO-ONGER early on that's something that I really enjoyed and you don't see explored much in this genre. While these people are busy being Rangers, it means that they don't have jobs. They eat eggs for almost every meal because it's cheaper, and they live in an RV, which is something that RPM actually kind of lampooned when they took the Ground Operational Outdoor Network General Purpose Exploration Rover out for a spin. This is something that's written out of GO-ONGER later when 2 rich kids join the team, kind of, more on this in a second, and help fund and especially feed them. So that whole sort of part of the team thing is something else that was interesting about GO-ONGER. When the Gold and Silver Rangers show up, at first they're not considered GO-ONGERs. They refer to themselves as Go-On-Wings because their partners are aircraft. This actually holds for a long time. Even after they fully join the team, they still do a different roll call and identify themselves separately. They do eventually fully participate in the roll call, and the entire team is just referred to as Engine Sentai GO-ONGER, but I thought it was something that reflected very gradual character growth as the two groups slowly learned to fully accept each other. Number 4. RESSHA Sentai TOQGER. Well, if GO-ONGER's placement surprised you, this must really surprise you. I talk so highly about TOQGER. I wear a TOQGER shirt. I did an entire video that was just about fighting arguments against TOQGER being good as an adaptation of Power Rangers. So, how many of you were expecting it to be number 1? Come on now, hands up. And by hands up, I mean pause the video right now, go down into the comments and admit it. Don't worry, I'm not mad, and trust me, you'll feel better. Thank you. Anyway, yes, I really love TOQGER. Imagination is a great theme, and TOQGER has some fantastic villains, all with their own motives and shifting emotional states, just different motivations and everything like that. I've already spoken about how I think the mecha are actually pretty awesome, and that the suits are perfectly okay. The Ranger characters are all really good too. Right, Tokyo Ichigo, is kind of one of those dumb but talented reds, and I've mentioned how that annoyed me in Ninja, but something is just more likable about Right that makes that not as annoying as it usually is. Oh, and his turn as Dark Tokyo Ichigo? I loved that. The reason that TOQGER just barely misses the podium is that it kind of drags in the middle. It wasn't enough for me to ever lose interest, it's just that TOQGER has a really good beginning and a really good ending, and not a ton going on in the middle. Oh, and as someone who always observes how the female heroes in a show are treated, the fact that the two girls, Yellow and Pink, had to share Hyper RESSHA is actually something that really pissed me off. Number 3. JYUKEN Sentai Gekiranger. Remember when I said that I don't consider Boukenger my first official Super Sentai? Well, here we are. It's Gekiranger that I first officially watched from start to finish, so it holds an even more special place in my heart. Gekiranger has a fantastic story that actually centers just as much on a villain becoming an anti-hero as on the Rangers themselves, who all have their own very believable, interesting arcs and grow in believable, good ways. Gekiranger has great individual mecha and combinations, but it has a really disappointing Ultra Zord. There's not really an equivalent Japanese term, I think. Where few of the mecha actually combine with each other. Jungle Fury even just calls it a stampede. There's actually a funny note about the Gekiranger's character names. The first 4 Gekirangers are named Retsu, Go, Ran, and Jan. When you arrange them in that order, it forms the sentence, let's go, run, and jump. Retsu, Go, Ran, and Jan. Which is something that encourages kids to get outside and play. The last Gekiranger is named Ken, and at first you might think that that doesn't fit with the rest of the motif. However, Gekiranger is about kung fu and mystical abilities, which are often referred to in those type of shows as Kens. So you could say that Gekiranger is using let's go run and jump Ken. Or it's telling Ken to do it himself. You make the call! So here we are at the final 2, but I actually realized something as I was writing this video. I've already spoiled the ending. In a Q&A video, I was once asked what my favorite Sentai was, and I revealed my top 2 or 3 of them. So, since you already know what my top 2 favorite Sentai are and which order they're in, let's just go ahead and get this over with. Number 2, Samurai Sentai Shinkenger. Whoa, whoa, whoa! Sean, that is not what you said in the Q&A video. Look! My favorite Sentai is Shinkenger, with TOQGER and Gekiranger running very, very close in 2nd and 3rd. This actually reveals something about my top 10 list that I've been thinking about for a while. My opinions are not static. They're going to continue to grow and change as I grow and change. I might learn new things that I didn't know before. New things are going to air, obviously, that might work their way into the list. And opinions just change over time. This actually has me even thinking if I might ever update or redo some of these top 10 lists as things change, opinions change, and I might learn some things that I didn't know before. Not that any of this is knocking Shinkenger, of course. It's still fantastic. So good. Please watch it if you haven't watched it. Shinkenger is a great story about keeping secrets for the greater good and the true purpose behind our motivation and the things we do. Power Rangers Samurai told almost exactly the same story, just with a little tweak that, okay, spoilers here for, I guess, Samurai and Shinkenger, but in Shinkenger, the female Red was not actually the male Red's sister, but at the end of the story ended up adopting him so he could legally lead the team as the Red Ranger. But overall, I actually praised Samurai for copying the story because it's a good story, and sometimes changing things for change's sake is bad. Alright, so sorry, but we're going to have to go voice only from here on out. I forgot to dump the video from the memory card, and since it was storming and I wasn't sure if we were going to lose power, I decided it was better to just get this done as quickly as I could, instead of dumping all the video and then recording the rest of it on set. Anyway, back to Shinkenger. I really like the Shinkenger mecha, though the swapping helmet thing could be a bit silly at times, and I'm not a huge fan of their Ultra Zord formation since half the Zords form a useless throne, and again, advocating for the ladies in the house, the girls' Zords, the only ones they had, 2 out of 11, are slapped to the bottom and back. I did a 2-video set of instructions on how to put the Gigazord together, and in the second part I explained that I swapped the girl Zords with the Bull Zord's arms, because they're just as good arms, the girl Zords, and now, instead of ornaments, the throne has cannons on it. I think it works better. Number 1. KAIZOKU Sentai GOSEIGER. Oh, so easy, so obvious. Of course you liked Gokaiger. Anniversary, past ranges, changing, blah blah blah. I can't understand this line of thinking since Gokaiger was a lot of Flash. For the record, I'm actually not really sure why it was the 35th anniversary that Toei hyped up so much. People tend to value the 10s in anniversaries more than the 5s, but the 30th anniversary, Boukenger, and the 40th anniversary, ZYUDEN, kind of downplayed their anniversaries. So I guess we're like 4 years away from another big blowout season, huh? But Gokaiger has just as much substance as Flash. You know, comparing Super Megaforce and Gokaiger is interesting, almost worth its own video. Basically, everything Super Megaforce got wrong is what Gokaiger got right. The characters are interesting, especially Captain Marvelous. Not just the name, but the man himself. See, Marvy-chan is the definition of anti-hero. His plans consistently revolve around fooling everyone, even other heroes, into thinking he's doing something bad, in order to keep them safe and out of his way, before he finally reveals that he's doing the right thing, but then refuses credit in order to keep his reputation safe and the ability to do it all again later. All the other characters get great backstories that explain their motivations and why they act the way they do. No informed character attributes here. Looking at you, Ninja Steel. Firmly written characters all the way around. The villains are sort of a step back, but that does make sense for an anniversary season that focuses on the heroes. The mecha are great, including the ones that are references to past seasons. I mean, heck, Gokaiger is one of the few, if not the only, Sentai to include explaining their appearance in the Versus movie for the two teams before. The Yellow Time Ranger brings them back one year to that event to chase a monster and, yes, make the appearance that they had already made. It was a fantastic touch and a testament to the quality of Gokaiger's writing. The Pirates of Space are number 1. Now, you heroes were not as limited as I was. I was only picking from 11 Sentai, but I threw open the gates to any Sentai that you folks have seen. Does that mean the viewer's choice will come from outside the 11 I've seen, or is something recent still the top pick? Let's find out. Well, the top 2 were pretty clear, but we have something of a cluster in third place. In third place, with a single vote each, were ZYUDEN, TOQGER, Shinkenger, Boukenger, Go Busters, and Live Man. In second place with 2 votes was the currently airing Sentai, Uchu Sentai KYORYUGER. But overall, we were in agreement. The first place in the viewer's choice was pirated, KAIZOKU Sentai GOSEIGER with 4 votes. The winner of the YouTube shoutout was John Sidney, a longtime viewer and excellent commenter. However, he's permanently waiving his right to shoutouts since he doesn't make content. I wanted to take this opportunity to remind everyone that I actually no longer require you to have an active channel to get the shoutout. The idea was to boost some other channels with the channel shoutout, but I decided it was better to not exclude my fans that don't make videos, and the shoutout can be its own reward. That being said, John did still waive it, so the shoutout goes to Barrett Brody, not sure, sorry Barrett. Thanks for voting. Next time, we go topical again, and this is a topic I've been sitting on for a while. I often hear people say, Megaforce was the worst season of Power Rangers ever. When I ask why, they say, it ruined GOSEIGER and the 20th anniversary of Power Rangers. Now, this may be a bit pedantic, I will admit, but if your reasons are related to GOSEIGER, you are talking about Super Megaforce. This happened again while I was coming up with videos for the hiatus, and I thought it'd be a good opportunity to talk about regular old Megaforce on its own, the things I liked about it, that it did well, maybe even what could have been extended from Megaforce into Super Megaforce to make that season better. So, next time on the hiatus videos, in defense of Megaforce. That's going to wrap up another Power Rangers Ninja Steel hiatus video. Thank you heroes so much as always for watching, and for being patient about another video that ends with a voiceover. Make sure to like the video by clicking the like button right down below, that big ol' thumbs up. In the comments below, let me know what you thought of my list, and make sure to subscribe to the channel, and also ring that bell icon so you get notified of whenever I post new videos. And if you just so happen to have a couple of dollars lying around you don't have anything else to do with, you can head over to digitaltipjar.com/OrangeRangerVid, toss a little support my way, and I would greatly appreciate it. Once again, thank you folks so much as always for watching, and until next time, may the power protect you. And yes, even though you can't see me, I still did the salute. Hello there, heroes! I'm the Orange Ranger, and welcome to another Power Rangers Ninja... Boy, we're off to a good start today. That argument can lose some weight. Damn. So it's time to make In the past, I've, for the most part, avoided discussing Power Rangers. So if it makes you go do so. It was 2 fantastic and very funny seasons. Nippers! They had their own mostly imaginary battle over 2 seasons. It's kind of funny that GOSEIGER actually ends up at the bottom of the list, since next time I'm doing a video defending Megaforce. Slow down. I also found it very creative to make the primary component of their mecha the headers, and also used on weapons. Yeah, sure, why not? I also found it very creative that the primary components or utilization. For those of you who have only seen Megaforce and you do know about each of the different groups of villains, in GOSEIGER, crap! The problem with this is that it makes GOSEIGER feel less like one distinct season and more like 3 shorter seasons. The problem with this is it makes GOSEIGER feel like... I bumped the spray paint. Tokumei Sentai Go Busters. It was a show. The first Sentai to be completely skipped over in that regard. That's for the... There are 2 aspects I can recall that really address the... And that's a thing about this list, actually. So much... saying they don't want to know each other. They have a job to do. Yay! go on wings because their partners are aircraft. Ow! But maybe pain will help me remember friggin' dates. The Ranger characters are all really good too. Right took you Ichigo. Right took you Ichigo. Okay. But Right is just somehow more likable and it makes it not nearly as annoying. Oh, his turn is Dark Toku Ichigo. The first 4 Gekirangers are named Retsu, Ran, Farts. Farts is not one of the Gekirangers. I've already spoiled this. In one of my Q&A videos, I was asked what my favorite Sentai is, and I went ahead and revealed my top 2 or 3. That apparently angered the sky. This, and then this is going to be me replying, and then I'll just turn back to his camera. No, 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 no. 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 Power stay on. My opinions are not static. They change as I grow as a person. This season, and I think I missed a line. This even has me thinking about if I might ever redo or update some of these top 10 lists. Come on, I don't have time for this.